To enact our sources of power, we rely on a combination of tactics. They differ in terms of their rationality, laterality, hardiness, and social acceptance. Some strategies are rational and rely on reasoning, logic, and good judgment. Others are less rational and rely more on emotionality and personal interests. Some tactics are unilateral and enacted without the target's cooperation. Bilateral ones, on the other hand, are more interactive and involve give and take between the power holder and the target. Soft tactics rely on the relationship between the parties. Influencers may use ingratiation, rewards, and friendship to influence their targets. Hard tactics, however, are more coercive and put pressure on others to gain compliance. Power holders may punish, enforce standards, and even bully targets into doing what they ask. In general, soft tactics are more acceptable and more likely to lead to commitment. The effectiveness of a tactic depends on several factors, including the influencer's sources of power, their role in the group, and the group's values and expectations. Interestingly, the most frequently used strategies, like rational persuasion and pressure, are not the most effective. Instead, personal appeals, consultation, and inspirational appeals tend to be more influential. Let's examine each of these power tactics. Rational persuasion is the use of logic, reasoning, facts, and evidence to influence others. Its effectiveness depends on the qualities of both the influencer and the target, the content of the message, and the communication channel. Consultation means involving other members in the decision-making process, thereby increasing their connection to the group and their stake in the outcome. Exchange is the promise of rewards if a person complies. Using personal appeals relies on the influencer's personal attractiveness, uniqueness, or likability. Inspirational appeals generate enthusiasm by connecting with others' emotions, values, and ideals. Upward appeals focus on gaining the support of a higher authority figure, like the group's leader or another source of expertise. Ingratiation means to enhance the influencer's likability by highlighting the similarities they share with the target. The coalition tactic involves forming a subgroup of members who have the same goals, establishing a common vision and strategy, and pooling resources. Assertiveness relies on legitimate and coercive power to pressure compliance. Assertive people remind targets of their authority, check on their work, and threaten to punish them for disobedience. And finally, information control involves the manipulation of others' access to information. This can be done by withholding or filtering incoming information according to self-imposed rules. We should also be aware of compliance tactics, which are subtle, indirect strategies that work by creating a favorable cognitive and emotional response from targets, and disrupting or preventing their ability to think critically. Because these tactics are subtle, they're harder to detect, and we can be influenced by them without realizing it. One example is a two-step strategy called the foot in the door technique. First, the influencer makes a small request that the target will likely comply with. Then, they make the real request, one that the target would have rejected if it had been presented first. Once they say yes to the first one, they're more likely to agree to the second one. For example, has anyone ever asked you for instructions to a specific location, only then to ask for a ride? This tactic works by motivating us to be consistent with our self-image. By agreeing to the first request, we feel helpful. And because we want to maintain that helpful perception, we also agree to the second one. The door-in-the-face technique is another two-step strategy. First, the influencer makes a large request that's sure to be rejected by the target. And then, they follow up with the real request, one that's smaller but still would have been rejected had it been presented first. Once they say no to the first one, they're more likely to agree to the second one. This tactic works by influencing the target's perception of the second request, which, by comparison, seems relatively small and reasonable.